robbery. Hands in the sky if you got a dream. Learn nothing was blocking me. I was the problem, the only one stopping me. I didn't like it, I had to refocus. Now I'm devoted, I know where I'm going. Controlling emotions, I'm owning the moment. In order to get it, see, you gotta want it. If I was make a living break. Confessions over these 808s. Don't sleep on the key, better stay away. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'ma be the best. Came from the endless lane, roll games, bitch with the chest. Beating on my chest, trying to get my rest. Watch me while I flex. Every win is a blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me. The chances of quitting are likely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes. Don't make excuses, they never excite me. Quitting was never an option.
We're ready to drop the green flag on a brand new season of the OSRL Premier Series. And what better place to start than the World Series Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Split Second Broadcasting's coverage of the OSRL Premier Series Speedway 200. I'm Hunter Brittle alongside Ross Brockman, ready to call all the action of the opening race of the Premier Series' 10th season. Ross, it's a brand new campaign. The slate has been wiped clean. What do these drivers need to do to get off to the correct start this season?
Well, I mean, win, right? I guess that would be great. That would be goal number one for a handful of these drivers. And I think for most of them, they all kind of know it's Daytona. There's a lot more opportunity to win for some of these drivers. And but ultimately, there's also a little bit of survival. This is a long race, and 80 laps around here. It'll be interesting to see how the draft works, and ultimately. Yeah, if you have a good points night tonight, it makes it so much easier, throughout the rest of the early part of the season, just to remain up near the front in points. If you have a bad night, then you gotta, spend the next couple of weeks kind of trying to erase that. So I think that's their goal, is just try to have a good finish tonight, and maybe even contend for a win.
Yeah, you're right about that. A 15 race schedule this season, in season number 10 of OSRL Premier Series competition, and it all starts here tonight at Daytona. You definitely want to start off on the right foot, not get yourself into any trouble, and not have to dig yourself out of that hole early on to get back up into the championship contention when we get down to the last handful of races or so, ultimately leading to the championship race at Las Vegas in 15 or so weeks' time. The field has made their pass through the pit lane to get a cue on their pit stalls. So let's run you through the field real quick before we take the green flag here. Starting on pole, earned in Q on last week, is Jack Painter with Cole Freilich in the 83 to his outside.
Starting third, Ethan Corder, and starting fourth, last year's champion, William Schmidt.
Starting fifth, Tristan Baker rolls off on the inside with Jacob A. Wilkerson to the outside in sixth.
Starting seventh is the 17 of Nathan Kiani. Starting eighth, the 26 of Cade McKee.
Joshua Chin rolls off from the ninth spot, a heavy hitter here. Expect for him to go forward with Emery Spence rounding out your top 10.
Starting 11th is the 33 of Isaac Johnson. To his right, the 03 of John Felber.
Spencer Ray rolls off from the 13th spot with Nate Stewart to the outside in 14th.
Starting 15th, the guy we'll probably see move to the front tonight, the 20 of Kendall Carpenter, and starting 16th, the 53 of Griffin Jones.
Caden Reif starts from the 17th spot with Nolan Sanford to the outside in 18th.
19th is Mo Perry, and rounding out the top 20 is the 47 of Jamie Ritchie Price.
The field's all double stacked, ready to go to open the season here in Daytona. Jack Painter has the field in his control. Pace car dives onto pit lane. The green flag is out. We are racing in the OSRL Premier Series at Daytona. Drag race down off into turn number one. Painter on the inside, Cole Freilich on the outside. He's got William Schmidt right on his rear bumper, with Porter drawing a bead on the back bumper of that 97 of Jack Painter as they go down the back straightaway. Everybody remaining nice, calm, cordial all 2 by 2 as now they get about halfway down the back straightaway. Now Cole Freilich got a car length out in front of Jack Painter on the top side, getting a good push from William Schmidt as they head off into turn number 3.
Great job by William Schmidt to push Freilich out to the lead there, but not taking too long for Painter to have an opportunity to get back there. It just seems like he's all of these lines stacked up pretty well, and everybody kind of staying together and doing some great pushing right away to get rolling.
Cole Freilich leads the first lap of 80 here at Daytona, and he'll stay committed to that top side with William Schmidt at the back bumper. And Ross, a big talking point in this race is going to be there was a huge update to the draft physics of this Gen 4 car, especially at the super speedways. We saw a little bit of it in practice, but it's a fresh week in iRacing, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to flush out this new draft model for these cars. From what I was seeing, it looks very similar to what you get in the early 2000s when these cars really flourished. The bubble draft effect seemed to be prevalent. So I expect these guys, once they get sorted out here, obviously we're still 2 by 2, and that's, old habits are hard to break from the draft models of the past. But once these guys get out and rolling, I think you're going to see a lot more big moves happening, 3 wide racing, side-by-side action all night long here as they fire off down the back once again. Cole Freilich, and leading that top side, has not relinquished control as now the inside lane starts to fall back. Now 3 cars have broken out in front of that top side as now the 43 car of Jacob Wilkerson goes down to cover the spot.
We saw last week in the dual races for qualifying a lot of aggressive moves, and I think obviously that was just short race, a chance to go do it, and not a lot on the line. Tonight, obviously, it's a long race. I think a lot of these drivers up front are hoping that they could just stay there. I even see a little bit of a second pack kind of dropping back a little bit. You talked about the draft package, I think a great chance to just learn and maybe, keep yourself in a safe spot by kind of breaking off and doing some riding right here to see what you got.
Absolutely. The super speedway mentality in iRacing never really changes, does it? There's two schools of thought here. Is now we get a big push from William Schmidt on the back bumper of Freilich to get him back out in front of Wilkerson. Now Wilkerson made a huge move down to the bottom and brought that inside lane back up to the lead. He actually led the last lap, but a massive shove from that outside lane has them right back out in control. But going back to what I was saying, you've got 2 schools of thought in iRacing, and it's never really going to change, in my opinion. You either can go up front and try to stay ahead of the trouble and lead all the laps, or you can go to the back and watch the trouble unfold and try and be in a better spot to avoid it, to put yourself in a better position come the end of the race. And we're seeing that already here as a big chunk of the field has broken off. It's pretty much split right down the middle at 20 and 21 cars, as you see the second pack here on our screen right now being led by the 42 of Braden Movick. And you can see the 2 schools of thought. They're all lined up single file pretty much the entire way back here as they've dropped off about 4 seconds back from the lead pack.
And you feel like, even just a couple seconds, you feel a little safe. It's a pretty big gap back there. I think that's kind of interesting to see how welcome they are to fall back that far, especially now that this pack up front is kind of gotten single file here. It seems like the top lane did a great job of getting rolling, and shout out to Cade McKee is one of them that did a great job up on that top lane to kind of get rolling. Then you saw Painter, who was started up on that front row. He kind of had to jump up to that top lane to just hold his track position because a lot of the other drivers that were behind him have fallen back now, and Painter just sits in 6th.
Yeah, one driver who did not get the opportunity to jump up into that outside lane is Jacob Wilkerson, who led just like 3 laps ago, but now big move there to try and tuck up in front of Isaac Johnson as the end of this freight train on the outside comes by. He has dropped all the way back to about the 15th position in this pack, as now everyone's single filed out and formed what I affectionately call the mile high line here, as it appears the top side, Ross, is the way to go early on.
Yeah, and I think part of it might be just a great job by Freilich and Schmidt to get that outside lane rolling. We saw it right away on the start, and then even when Wilkerson went up there to pass, they were able to just kind of fend that off after a while, and now everybody jumps to the top. I think, yeah, I think those are two guys that obviously are great at this. They know what they're doing, and it makes it a lot easier for everybody else to kind of fall in line. So we'll see if this pack, we'll have to watch here. It looks like they're running, maybe a couple tenths faster than that second pack, it looks like to me, and that's definitely going to extend that gap even more. So, if we get this green flag run going and then all of a sudden you make pit stops, that really, could separate this into two kind of groups until you get a caution.
Now that will be an interesting sight to see when we get to that point. Should we get to that point, is green flag pit stops. How will that cycle out the field? As now it looks like the entire field now has come together in a single file line. I take that back. There's still that second pack back there, but they're not as far back as now we see some battling here in that second pack. Cars trying to get that all sorted out. That's Joe Armstrong in the 22, a perennial championship favorite. Multiple race wins last year, all hung out on the top side now as they're electing to go down to the inside lane and try and make some time, as opposed to the lead pack, who are still, as we've got caution on the speedway here. We've got one car stopped on the back straightaway. I believe that's the 9 car of Ray, Spencer Ray. There is, yeah.
Caden
you can
Reif
see it, and that's Caden Reif down there, all the way to the bottom. Caution flag waves on lap number 9.
Yeah, just kind of running 13th and 14th. So you kind of wonder what happened, if there's just a mix-up as far as you saw like the whole line kind of going down to the bottom as some of the other cars were losing momentum on the outside. That maybe they just kind of hooked each other, and ultimately a great job by everybody else around them to get by. But to be running 13th and 14th at a super speedway and ultimately both get thrown off of the main line down to that inside on the backstretch, something had to have happened that at least everybody got through it.
Looks like a pinch maneuver there. I believe that's the 818 of Ethan Quarter. Got up on there, and then 3 wide racing ensued. And unfortunately, Caden Reif washed up this track right into the back quarter panel of Spencer Ray and sent them both around.
Isaac Johnson looks like he got turned there and didn't spend too much time on the backstretch when we got, caught the incident. He was kind of away from it, or at least we didn't see where he was, but got back rolling. I think the other thing, Emery Spence there was just a little bit high right there. Like, yeah, kind of maybe just bounced back up, going through the bumps. See, right here, Johnson might be okay. A little damage probably to the front end of Caden Reif's car.
Yeah, it didn't look like too hard of a hit, but the damage model on these Gym 4 cars, it's hit or miss, it seems like. You can either have a hit like that can either produce, 45 seconds of damage to the nose, or it can produce 4.5 minutes of damage, as we ride on board with Spencer Ray here, going for a ride down in the infield. It doesn't look like that car took too heavy of a hit, as we've got cars on pit road. Ross, looks like a split decision up here. The leaders, Freilich and Schmidt, have come down. And, yeah, a real split decision here. Looks like about a third of the field has stayed out.
Yeah,
what do you make of that call?
Nate Stewart, Joshua Chin, Ethan Quarter, Wilkerson. We saw him drop back a little bit during that first run. I'm looking at the fuel window here tonight is probably close to 30 laps. I think that's the best number. It might be 29 if you're leading the pack, might be 31, 32 if you're somewhere in the middle saving some fuel. So this spot right here is going to put you right on the outside of being able to make it on one stop, but that would be stretching it. I mean, you're definitely going to probably need a caution or two maybe to make it on one more stop, and who knows if that would be what you want to do with running tires all the way to the end. But ultimately, yeah, maybe these guys just wanting to get some, they only have 3 sets of tires. So if you pit now with your tires and then you do 2 more fuel stops, then maybe that works out. But maybe just trying to at least give themselves other options compared to the rest of the pack. I like staying out here. I guess Cade McKee's going to take over the race lead here. John Felber in second. I think this is probably the right play. We'll see if they can stay up there, and if those drivers that just pit, how fast they want to try to get back up front.
Yeah, based on that first run, it looked like, obviously the field single filed out relatively quickly. We'll have to see how and if that comes back here in this second run. I'd be really interested to see how those guys, Freilich and Schmidt and the likes on back, it looks like they're going to come out around the 12th position or so. I'll be interested to see how they make their way forward.
And looking through the drivers that did pit, it didn't look like most everybody was just fuel only. So ultimately, yeah, maybe they feel comfortable that they could potentially make it on one stop from here. If you go green, it might have to do a little bit of saving, but yeah, who knows? It might be the strategy play that a lot of them are. You talk about the amount of practice you practice in the draft and all that. You also can do a little bit better math to make sure that in the pack how far you can go. So maybe some of these drivers feel that they can make it on that one more stop, and this is the best play. I just would be a little nervous being in the middle of the pack here. We'll see how they get to racing. If they single file out like they did the last run, then I bet a lot of those guys that filled up are going to feel pretty good.
Yeah, another thing I'll be watching when we get back to green here as the field makes its way through 1 and 2. When these cars got single filed out, it all remains nice and calm, which I can understand then why those guys would elect to come down and get tires and fuel and sacrifice that track position. Because if the field single files out again like that, it's nice and it should remain calm, save a lone weird spin from the likes of Spencer Ray and Caden Reif, like we just saw, and the reason we're under yellow here. But I will be interested to see how they can if they can save fuel, because the way that the new draft model is, it feels like you're going to have to stay tucked up underneath the person in front of you. Otherwise, you can lose the draft quickly. The bubble here, it's not easy to suck up to the back bumper of the guy in front of you and just push. Like, I don't know if you have as much control as what we saw last week in the duels. It's a completely different draft package from 1 week ago. So I'm very curious as to see where the split happens, if a split does in fact happen, once again, like we saw in the first run. Pace car makes the hard left-hand turn onto pit lane. The field is in the control of Cade McKee. Green flag is out. He's away with a shot. Got a good 2-car length lead over top of the likes of Jack Painter and John Felber now, who controls the outside. Good to see John Felber having a good run here tonight as they fire off into turn number 1.
And we saw Painter on that first run on that bottom lane just kind of didn't take long and kind of started losing a little bit of ground. Right now, I imagine feeling pretty good, but now the top lane is going to be the place where McKee's going to go, and Painter's back on the bottom by himself. Here comes Bubik on the bottom, going 3 wide. It's going to send Carpenter and Painter through the middle.
And he's got the help of the 55 of Nadeau there on the bottom. That's going to send, like you said, Jack Painter and Kendall Carpenter there. They're going to go back. Carpenter manages to duck up into that outside lane. But there's still a scramble going on all the way back. And Cade McKee is going to lead this lap here with John Felber to his back bumper there for lap number 14.
And some of our drivers, even Freilich's already up to 8th. Schmidt up to 11th. They're moving up pretty quickly with even though they made that pit stop for fuel. So we'll have to see a little bit of a checkup along the top lane. That's the tough part, is like you want to. Oh, we got
cars around in the back. Griffin Jones and Joe Armstrong, heavy and hard contact. Nolan Sanford spinning around to the inside. William Schmidt's involved. One of those guys who took tires. The track position gamble has not paid off for him. The 47 of Jamie Ritchie Price, the nose of that car completely gone. Caution flag waves here as we come to the conclusion of lap number 14 at Daytona. That incident, Ross, looked like it took half a lap to finally unfold.
Yeah, I heard some drivers jumping on the radio just for checking up, and yeah, I don't know if where, we saw William Schmidt was up to 11th, so you're not sure where he would have got involved. Yeah, stack up there, and ultimately everybody kind of was getting through this.
We ride on board looking above. You can see that's the preliminary contact between Armstrong and Griffin Jones. I saw that out of the corner of my eye. We were covering the scramble at the front, but I saw that contact out of the corner of my eye. I saw Griffin get turned completely sideways, managed to save it right there. And they stayed up in the wall for what felt like ages. We ride on board here. Jamie Ritchie Price comes plowing in. Oh! Heavy contact there. That looked like William Schmidt, but, I don't know. William Schmidt's still upscored in the 11th position, so I apologize for that call. We've got a lot of purple, red, and white cars here in the field tonight.
When you said it, I was like, yeah, that is him back there. And then, no, I guess not. But yeah, there's a handful of similar. The 05.
That's the 05 of Cooper Glick. Gets caught there at the end of that, gets sent spinning around. Because now we've got pit stops, and now it looks like we're going to have a couple more takers here from the lead. Braden Movick. Cade McKee comes down to get service. You mentioned it, Ross. We're right on that fuel window, and looks like the back half of the field's going to follow suit. Right on that fuel window to try and make it on one more stop in this race. Yeah, looks like everybody's realized where they sit on numbers.
Yeah, and I like this group here. You feel a lot more comfortable at this number. I think the previous caution back on lap 10. This caution right now, if you're out there still, you're maybe doing a little saving. I look at Freilich as one, Michael Deitch, Chris Lilly, Ethan Corder. They're staying out. Wilkerson, they're all staying out on that lap 10 plan of filling up back on that last caution. I would think they're going to need another caution here to be able to make it the rest of the way on one more stop. Everybody that just pitted now, they probably can make it on one stop now, maybe just with a little bit of saving just in case. But I like that. I like that strategy. Otherwise, the guys that are up front, you still have 5 of them that have not made a pit stop yet. Felber, Kiani, Nadeau, Tristan Baker, and Harry Grindel. Ultimately, they're staying out of trouble being up front. And if you have at least, here they have five of them that have not made that pit stop yet. At least if you do have to make your pit stop, let's say in another, 10 to 15 laps here under green, you're probably going to be, coming down from pit road up in the top 5 and ultimately not going to lose a lot of track position. Even if you're behind the pack, the next caution comes out, you can stay out and regain the track position if you want. So ultimately, it's kind of a safe play for these guys up front. It's just a matter of when the rest of the cautions fall. They're kind of at the mercy of just seeing what happens and where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think everybody started to realize where the run is going to end up, and it seemed like it's inevitably going to end up in a single file lane on the outside. So that mad scramble there is kind of what created that wreck and what leads us to our second caution of the night as the field starts to get double filed up. They've received the one to go signal this time. So I'll be interested to see how the field restarts this time, knowing that, hey, there is in fact a limit to how hard you can race in the opening laps of these green flag runs before everything starts to calm back down, if it in fact does. And that's all speculation. We still have yet to see a second long green flag run here on the high banks of Daytona with this new draft package.
And ultimately, these drivers that have gotten through those first couple incidents, we still have a handful of them out there going to try to fix some damage and get back in this. Ultimately, a big field tonight, and if you have a bunch of big wrecks, even if you're in one of them, if you can keep rolling and stay on the lead lap, you might be able still to get a decent finish. So a little bit of survival in a long race is might score you some big points. And like we talked about at the start of the broadcast, it's just it's a full season point system. It's kind of a long season of stacking points, and It's a lot easier when you go to a place like Daytona to start off with a great finish and build that point base with a nice start right here at Daytona.
You definitely want to get off on the right foot, especially at a track like this one where the draft is a heavy factor. Anybody can win at a track like this. So lots of opportunity for drivers to score maximum points here, or not maximum, but a lot of points here tonight and set themselves up for success for the rest of this 15 race schedule. Here comes the field now down to receive the green flag. Pace car makes the hard left-hand turn onto pit road. John Felber has the field in his control. Green flag is back out. Here we go once again with Nathan Chiani now in second. And it looks like he's going to try and duck down behind the likes of Felber down there on that bottom. And then they'll both migrate back up towards the top to cover off that outside lane as we start to see cars still trickling up to that outside lane here. But Felber and Chiani have a big gap back to Baker there in third place.
Just a kind of unorganized start, lots of gaps between the drivers here, so gonna kind of break everything up a little bit. And for those guys that are up front, as we see Freilich looking to the inside here, but they gotta be a little happy just that it's gonna be somewhat maybe calm. But yeah, now here comes Felber on the bottom, sees Freilich jump to the bottom, Wilkerson popping up down on the bottom there too, so Felber gonna try to hold on to this lead here, and oh man, they stack up. He maybe even got the wall.
Ooh, big wiggle there for John Felber coming out of turn number 4. Hit that bump right there on exit, and that's going to allow Cole Freilich to come back to the point. Here's caution flag is out. Huge crash back out of the exit of the tri-oval. Braden Movik's involved. His car is spinning down towards the grass and the inside wall. Caution flag waves once again. We see the 36 with Dalton Geyers involved. We'll go back and take a look at it right here.
Yeah, and you're not sure, we haven't been able to get going, so when these incidents are happening just a couple laps after the caution, everybody's, kind of stacked together here. Trial can be a little sketchy at times.
Oh, and yeah, looks like Braden might have gotten the back of, I believe that was Geyer. They're spinning down off of his nose. Yep, gets righted once again. And it just collects a large portion of the back part of this field.
Ultimately, maybe even a little bit of a checkup from the middle lane that kind of slowed that top lane. And you talked about Movik, I think it just ultimately just kind of didn't line up very well, and probably was trying to just check up too, but just a little too late. And just kind of everybody's already uneasy as you go through that tri-oval, and then with these cars you get just even touching a little bit, and they get pretty hard to hold on to.
Looking back as we ride on board here. Ooh, I believe that's John Daniels there in the 02. Got turned, sent up into the outside wall. Heavy contact there. A number of cars involved in this wreck on lap number 19. And you said it, Ross, right there in that tri-oval. That's the sketchiest part of this racetrack when it comes to these bump drafting stock cars wheeling it around here at 200 miles an hour. Yeah, that was John Daniels. They got the little bit of a help there from Braden Movik. Ethan Corder gets tagged up into the outside wall. It's really hard to control that car as now everybody comes back down pit road here. At least from the front, we've got a couple takers that stay out. But a vast majority of the field now comes back down. And now I think, Ross, it's fair to say everybody can make it on one stop.
And I imagine that's why they're all coming down here, is they all feel they know that they can make it on one more stop now. So this is where everybody's going to make that stop. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened there if we went green with a handful of different runs going as far as, different types of fuel strategy and different amounts of fuel. But yeah, we'll have to see. It looks like Michael Deitch here going to be staying out. Put it on lap 10, so still on that lap 10 strategy. Handful of others that are also staying out here. Looks like maybe is that Carpenter. He put it back on lap 15. I like the lap 15 pit stop. You feel like you're still going to be in that window now, especially after this caution here. That even the drivers that have pitted this lap or this caution, they don't have much of an advantage on you. Just maybe a little more fuel that isn't going to matter if you could still make it on one more stop.
Michael Deitch will get cycled to the lead here at the end of this pit sequence. And that will bring, so we've got 5 cars, make it 5 cars that have stayed out. Cole Freilich being the first one to have come down and received service will line up in the 6th spot. So we've got Michael Deitch, Kendall Carpenter, Jack Painter. That's the 67 of Nate Stewart and Joshua Chin there in the 93. They've all stayed out. Everyone else came back down to top off on fuel at bare minimum and get fresh rubber.
Yeah, it looks like Dalton Geyer we saw and John Daniels, saw them in that incident. Both spent a long time on pit road just trying to fix as much damage. They're going to stay on the lead lap. And see what they got here as far as the damage fix. Looks like Griffin Jones in the 53, the 47 of Jamie Ritchie Price. Same thing. Just spent a lot of time on pit road trying to fix the damage and back out right now. Just trying to. They're going through 1 and 2 right now. Just trying to get caught up to the pack here and see what they got. See if they can stick with the draft. And like I said, there's a little bit of survival here. If you're in one of those wrecks, if you can still make laps and stay on the lead lap, who knows what could potentially happen. As far as a good finish, especially if we keep having these incidents. So, yeah, we'll see see if these drivers can keep it going and maybe get a little bit of a run.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Ross. If these guys can get it sorted out here, the guys with lots of damage, John Daniels, Shane Sweeney as well, guys like that. I don't know if they have much of a chance if we get going green here, depending on the amount of damage. But if we keep getting this slew of cautions, it takes a while to pace around this track. You can get a lot of damage repaired under caution at these super speedways like Daytona and Talladega. Pace speed is 70 miles an hour, which is a crawl around a 2.5 mile track such as this one.
And you get sometimes I think this happens where all of a sudden you get a driver, especially in a long race like this, and you get almost tired of going slow, and then all of a sudden you go green, and you maybe get too overly aggressive, and next thing you know we're going slow again for another caution. So that kind of sometimes happens. I think it's not much fun just riding around here. They all want to race, and hopefully we can get some racing here. I'm interested to see now if you got Carpenter, Painter. Can they stay up here, or some of these drivers that just pitted, are they going to be able to cycle back up to the lead?
We're about to find out. Green flag is out. Michael Deitch leads the field to green. They're on the inside. Now Jack Painter will get right up to the back bumper of that number 57 car, trying to push him out clear of that top side that's been really strong early on. If we can get a green flag run going back here, we'll have to see how that top side starts to roll here when we get back out of turn number 2. Here comes the run now. Kendall Carpenter pulls up alongside of Jack Painter, but that inside lane still holding strong with Michael Deitch at the helm.
Yeah, nice job by Deitch to be able to hold this lead and see if they could stay there. Carpenter has a great help from Nate Stewart here pushing him, and Freilich behind up on that top lane. I think that's probably where you're going to want to be, but right now Deitch is not clear. They're going to be side by side, 2 by 2.
7 cars now down on the inside. Everyone else has evacuated to higher ground up on that outside lane, and now it starts to get rolling here. Now Kendall Carpenter draws even with Deitch going through 1 and 2. We'll have to see how that inside lane with smaller numbers is able to contend. Granted, seven is still not a small number by any means to be able to contend with a big line like that. As here comes the 03 of John Felber now to the bottom to try and help that inside lane's advances. As Michael Deitch will get the push back out in front, and he will be clear and in sole control of the lead once again.
And mostly 2x2 right now. Just Deitch able to hold on to the lead. Painter in second. Having some issues with our video, but so far the action's still on track side by side, and Deitch out front and Painter and it looks like Carpenter's starting to fall back.
Yep, we're going to go radio style here as now the outside lane has fallen back a little bit, but here comes Joshua Chin from the 4th spot on the inside lane, and now Carpenter gets hung out to dry by the 67 of Nate Stewart. Everyone's going to follow through with him, so Kendall Carpenter going backwards. He will manage to tuck back in line in the 5th position on the outside lane, but now Joshua Chin has been able to draw right up alongside of Michael Deitch there on the outside for the lead. Josh Chin leads that lap here at Daytona.
I haven't talked much about Joshua Chin tonight. Big push from Nate Stewart to push him up there. Freilich in 3rd. That top lane really kind of got the momentum down the backstretch, and they were able to push out in front here. Really both Stewart and now Freilich in 3rd going to clear that front lane. So can this top lane get back rolling and ultimately, hold their ground like we saw on one of the earlier runs back, when we started this race?
Now we've got a lot of cars now have gone back down to the inside lane after seeing that group of 7 that we talked about a couple laps ago try and hold up that outside lane. They were doing a pretty good job, but now that tandem of Deitch and Painter just can't seem to hang with the top side now as Deitch gets big loose into the on the entry of turn number 1. That's going to slow that lane's advances a lot coming back down the back straightaway. And now 8, make it 9 cars now have cleared on the top side. And we're starting to see now everybody once again migrates back up to the top side now. And the inside lane is going nowhere fast.
Yeah, and it's a tough spot when you're on that bottom lane and they kind of get pushed back. We see a lot of them. I hear them calling out on the radio, hoping to get up to the top lane, but they're not getting much help. It's everybody's pretty organized up on that top lane, and Joshua Chin leading this. It's for a guy that started in 9th, we haven't really said too much about him, and ultimately maybe fell back a little bit at the start, but able to get up here and grab the lead. Pitted on lap 15, so able to potentially have a little less fuel than say Freilich and Lilly, who are in 3rd and 4th here. So we're back in front. We see everybody single file.
Yep, Joshua Chin leads the way, and I said it at the top of the show. Joshua Chin has a lot of speed in this series. Definitely one of the better racers in the OSRL Premier Series, and he's showing it right now, leading the way with Nate Stewart and Cole Freilich at his back bumper. Really got 3 of the big names in this series showing the way here on the top side, just putting a whooping on anybody who can try and mount a charge. As it looks like now that inside lane is completely falling apart as we see Michael Deitch gets hung out on the bottom side. He's going to go all the way to the back. And now Jack Painter will lead what's the remains of that inside lane. They're still falling back now, maybe 15 cars back from the top spot.
Michael Deitch might even lose the draft of this pack. Where there's another couple groups of cars: Corey Rexford, Emery Spence, John Daniels, that are a little bit farther back, and then another pack that's about a half a lap behind. I think of just damaged cars from some of those other incidents, just trying to get to the next caution and maybe work on more damage. But ultimately, a large part of this pack is up all together, even though they're all single file. A lot of them are here and battling. Now Movic on the bottom, going to try to maybe get something going here to try to get that bottom lane up there to make some passes and move up. But yeah, but you got basically an agreement from all these drivers that are up on this top side. It's gonna be really hard to break them up.
A huge checkup that started way up at the front of the field, made its way accordioned all the way. It was like watching a drop of water ripple through a pond. And it it found its way all the way back to the 43 of Jacob Wilkerson, who decided he had had enough and would not sit in line, and he dove to the inside lane, and now that inside lane's got a little momentum now. A group of 6 cars trying to make their way back towards the front and try and challenge this dominant top side.
And it seems to be working. Moving forward here, we'll see. Wilkerson has not been willing to wait. Really
Caden Wright gets turned around again. Heavy contact. The 21 of Stephen Gibson is involved. Caution flag is out for what I believe is a 2-car incident. I didn't see anybody else get involved. At least while the pack flashed by, we see a lone tire rolling down to the inside lane.
I see a tire flying. We have another incident that ultimately maybe not a lot of people involved.
And this is exactly what those cars, you talked about them, Ross, the guys who had dropped back had a lot of damage and they could not hang with the draft, had fallen about a half a lap back. This is exactly what they wanted to see to try and get more of that damage repaired and get back up into contention here, as we see just another huge stack up. That's the problem with when you get these big freight train lines up on that top side, the accordion effects and the stack ups just get amplified. They get turned up to 11. And eventually up in the back of the pack, it comes to a boiling point. And it right there it did for Stephen Gibson and co.
Well, and you get this feeling of like, okay, now we're just biding our time and riding, but you have to be aware, you know, you see the stack up there. It's just like you have to be on your toes, even though it feels like you have this moment of like, hey, I think we can take it easy and catch our breaths. But if you do that and then you have a stack up, the decision making you have to have, you need to be on your toes, and that can kind of be tough if you've been relaxing for a couple laps, you know. So that's easy to do.
Yep, all it takes is one little lapse, especially off of turn number 2 there. I mean, the runs that these cars will get, really any car, honestly, off of the top side of turn number 2, you can see it on restarts, especially with how much speed those cars are able to generate on that top side when they come slamming down off that banking. And you blink and you're up on the car in front of you. And the accordion, like I said, it happened up at the front of the field. I can't recall which 2 cars it was, but somebody had to hit the brakes hard, and it made its way all the way back to roundabout, probably about the 20th position where those guys were running in Caden Rife and Stephen Gibson. And unfortunately, it ends with them with heavy contact to each other, as they will limp their cars to pit lane here. As we've got a couple takers, but it looks like it's mostly the back half of this field probably trying to repair damage, or just taking fuel, getting the balance of that car recentered to line up for the back 2/3 of this race.
Ultimately, everybody in the top 20 positions or so, except William Schmidt, who was in 16th. But yeah, I think pitting here just maybe gives you a little extra opportunity for later. Maybe just feeling like you could run a little bit longer if you wanted to, if we do get a green flag pit stop. But ultimately, I think really not much different if you stayed out or pitted here. I think this is just kind of in the middle of the window, and we're not close enough to be able to make it to the end yet. So gonna have to go at least another 10 laps, I think, before we have that chance.
Field restacking up here, as though we'll come to get the one to go signal this time. Joshua Chin will lead the way. Nate Stewart in second, Cole Freilich in third. Those three have had a death grip on this field ever since the drop of the green flag that last time by. We'll see if anybody can mount a charge. It looks like Braden Movick and Jacob Wilkerson, they were able to make their way up pretty far up the rankings here with that inside lane. Had it rolling pretty good. Wilkerson managed to make his way all the way up to the 7th spot. So as we get back into the back 2/3 of this race, look for those guys in particular to be making those moves to the inside, not content to sit in line here and try and make a run towards the front when we get to go racing again.
And some of our drivers up front, really, if you know, Joshua Chin, Nate Stewart, Kendall Carpenter, they all, Jack Painter's won, even though he's back running 17th. They all put it on lap 15, so they're 2/3 through a fuel run here, and I know they've had some caution laps to maybe save a little bit, but ultimately they're really only 10 laps away from what would be their, you know, potentially their final pit stop. So, you know, if you get going green here and you run another 10 laps or so, they potentially will have to come down and pit under green, and you know, you're not going to lose a lap. I think that's, you know, ultimately not that big of a deal, but it'd be very interesting to see if that happens. I think if they go another little bit here, they're going to have to pit anyways under caution, and if a lot of the drivers behind them, they kind of got this road course feel to it with the way the fuel mileage is going. You know, you could pit and you know, fill up during yellow, but it ultimately doesn't do too much. You want to pit almost under green and catch the caution after you pit to regain the lead. So we'll have to see when these guys hit pit road for that last pit stop. It could be a lot of different schedules here, depending on when the cautions fall.
Field is double file back up once again. Joshua Chen elects the outside lane this time for this restart, and you can't really blame him with how that outside lane's been ripping. We get back to green here. Nate Stewart will be on the bottom, restarting in second. Back behind him will be Cole Freilich. So that trio kind of gets busted up here, and that will bring the 48 of Chris Lilly back to the back bumper of Chin's 93 car. His green flag is out. We're racing once again. Josh Chen gets a good jump there, leaves Lilly hanging there a little bit. I'll be interested to see how that inside lane can reform here, as now Nate Stewart as well. Look at those guys. They're way out there by themselves.
I'm not sure if that's maybe even a little bit of a plan there, as Stewart cleared Chin and Chin drops in behind. I know Chin was leading that last run for a while. Maybe the idea of having Stewart now lead is the plan before they make that pit stop, maybe another 10 laps or so. So yeah, put Stewart out front.
Yep, Nate Stewart leads the way. Josh Chen rides in second. Cole Freilich being the driver that got hung out there on that inside and is already starting to lose spots. Now back to the 6th position or so. He's got Kendall Carpenter on the back bumper and Jacob A. Wilkerson there, as those three leading that inside lane, or at least what's left of it already. Everyone back up to the top side as the inside continues to fall here. Everyone's still remaining nice and cordial, at least for the time being, as we navigate turns 1 and 2 back down the back straightaway.
First time tonight we've seen Mo Perry up into the top 5. OSRL regular here, finally able to get up and get some track position. Started back in 19th. Doing a great job to just slowly move his way up here, up into the top 5.
Yep, and speaking of guys that have come from the back here, there's a little bit of a stack up there. Freilich slams the door up to the outside lane. Cade McKee has to drop down into that middle lane. Is he going to be able to clear him? He's got some help there back behind in the form of Pervolarikis. Looks like everybody's on the same page here. Hang out Freilich on the outside lane. Don't give him an opportunity to jump back in line and bust this up. Otherwise, it looks like the top 17 or so cars are going to be able to break away here if they don't get it sorted out, Ross.
And Cade McKee was able to get back in front of Freilich, and they were kind of able to get away a little bit in this second group. Yeah, I thought there was a couple chances for an incident there, just the way that there was a lot of decision making on who they were going to hang out, and they finally got it kind of situated. But yeah, give this front, I don't know, about 10 cars here a chance to kind of break away. The top 5 even pulling away from 6th right now. So yeah, ultimately another breakup here of the pack a little bit, and this might give us the chance to go green for a while.
Car on the wall, that's Dalton Geyer there in the 36, going to go slow down the back straightaway and lose lose the front draft? Will he be able to get back in line with these guys who are coming behind him with damage and try and salvage something? As this gap here in between the front pack of about 6, we've got some splinter cells here, Ross, and we're going to have to see if they can get back together here. These are big gaps in between these packs.
Yeah, it's kind of broken up. Another driver that kind of broke away from it is Kendall Carpenter was kind of on that strategy of having to pit here in another 5 laps or so, and he's kind of gotten away from some of the other drivers that are going to need to pit. So you want to have friends when it comes time to pit, and if you break off of where you were with your group, that can kind of put you in a bad spot. But right now, those 2 drivers that we'll see on pit road first are the ones out front in Stewart and Chin.
Yep, Stewart, Chin, Carpenter, and Jack Painter, it looks like, are the only cars left who have run 24 laps since being on pit road here. As we've got action in the back. Ooh, Nathan Kiani trying to stay in line in front of Isaac Johnson. There, as we got cars slow, one hood up. Caution flag waves here at the entrance to pit road. I believe that's the 05 of Cooper Glick once again. There, you can see him already going to the attention of his crew as that hood slams back shut as he's hard on the brakes here. Missed the stall, actually. Caution flag waves here. Lap number 40, right at the halfway point of this event.
Yeah, and I'll have to take a look. You talked about the breaking apart of all the packs. That can sometimes, especially knowing that you have a final pit stop, not too far away, almost a little bit of panic for some of these drivers that are a little bit farther back. So we'll see what happened here.
Like Glick got to the inside of the 06 of Bennett. There's 2 cars going for the same amount of real estate. It does not work. It ends up with Bennett hard in the outside lane, and then Cooper Glick had some big front end damage there. You saw the hood flying up on that one. So it looks like about a 2 or 3 car incident in the back of this pack. Not a whole lot of drivers involved. We'll still have a large pack that will get back together here. And this was way off the pace, off of the main group there. Oh, you can see the 22 of, I believe that's the 122 of Shane Sweeney got loose and caused that stack up.
I saw that 01 of Trey Patton did a great job of avoiding it, running on the bottom there. Had to use the apron a little bit in 4 to, and then sometimes you have to use the apron to avoid the wreck, and then all of a sudden you start being out of control by driving down on the apron. We'll ride with him here. Nice job avoiding this.
Boy, yeah, you see a car get turned in front of you on these high banks. You just know it's coming down. Luckily, that car hooked back right.
Yeah, no panic from him.
Yep, able to escape with no damage to that car. A huge move there. Great emotional control and physical car control to keep that out of trouble. All right, Ross, so we've reached the halfway mark here. We know fuel runs about 30 laps or so, give or take. Doesn't look like any of our front runners are electing to come down. Now we see some cars start to fake down to the inside. Looks like Harry Grindell there in the 70 car is going to lead that charge, as most of the field will follow him down.
Yeah, I think the first half of this race we saw a lot of them feel very confident in that 30 number. So here with 38 to go, you go back green with about 37 to go. It's gonna be a little tough to potentially make it from here, but we know this gives them some options by pitting now and just having the chance to run maybe a little bit long and see where that cycles you out, depending on the final cautions and where they fall here. But yeah, window not open yet, but yeah, chance for some of these guys. Ultimately, we had a handful of them trying to fix some damage, so maybe a little bit of that too.
So for the cars that stayed out here now, Nate Stewart, Josh Chin, we talked about them, Jack Painter, they have stayed out on their old tires, on what's got to be, at this point, Ross, low fuel. They've run 27 laps since their last pit, by my count.
Yeah, and I imagine I kind of would have thought that right there they would have maybe wanted to pit there, but maybe they feel that they can, with the cautions they've received here, get to the 30 mark that we think that a full fuel window is, and then go a little bit farther just because of the saving they've been able to do to get into the window and then make that pit stop. Only being by themselves, though, I think they probably are hoping that, Painter, who's back in 15th, is on the same strategy. I think they probably wish he was a little closer. I believe it was Kendall Carpenter was on that strategy, but he kind of bailed on it and hit pit road this last time by. So, yeah, I'm fascinated to see how much farther they can go, because maybe they feel they can get within that window here if they go just a little bit farther.
Well, you timed the cautions right, and they're back in cash. They're only they've only run 5 more laps than everyone else. I say 5 more laps like it's nothing. That's more than 10 miles. Make it probably closer to 15 miles around this track. So they're not too far off of the rest of the pack that stayed out with them, these leaders, this top 15 or so. But you get another caution, time it right, they're right back in the game. But if it gets timed wrong and they have to pit, then the caution flag comes out, they might be in for a world of hurt, Ross.
Well, and you know, mentioning the fact that if they have to pit and they're by themselves, that's just the amount of fuel they have. A lot of the other drivers here, they might want to pit too. They might want that opportunity to pit with 2 guys that have been really fast tonight and doing a great job of drafting together. I mean, why not jump on that strategy with them and make your pit stop when they do, if it's within that window. I don't think that's a bad idea and out of the possibility. Just because you can go farther doesn't mean you have to. So we'll see. Maybe a handful. Obviously, a lot of these guys are talking. A lot of them work together on teams. They may have a plan here to have more than just the 2 of them make that pit stop. I think what they don't want here is another caution in just a couple laps. I think they're really hoping they can go green here and get that pit stop in under green.
Plans being made, battle lines being drawn here in the closing laps. I say closing laps. We're just past the halfway mark here of the Speedway 200, the opening race of Season 10 of the OSRL Premier Series. They'll get double filed up once again off of turn number 4. Nate Stewart will be the control car. He elects the outside lane. Josh Chin to the inside. I expect to see a little bit of gamesmanship once again when we get going green like they did last time. That was a well-executed restart. Here we go once again. Early shot from Stewart here. Chin doesn't have the opportunity to close up on that outside lane, but the outside road does not have a whole lot of help there as everybody dives now to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, large gaps, kind of about 2 or 3 cars back on that top lane there. Give this bottom lane the chance to get rolling first, but I feel like they all kind of, you can see they all kind of want to get back up to the top side. Bo Perry's going to lead the bottom lane, and this might give him a chance to even go up there and flirt with the lead. We'll see. Nice job by Perry to get down to the bottom here and have the run in through 3 and 4.
Oh, car around there for about the 10th place spot. That's the 9 of Spencer Ray. Hard impact to the outside wall. They're still wrecking in, piling in behind. Caution flag waves. Once again, as we see damage, that bumper hanging on by a thread for Spencer Ray. As we will go back and get another replay. It looked like Ray got turned off the left rear quarter panel as they headed up into turn number 3 here. It looks like the 03 of John Felber washes up in there. Spencer Ray goes around, comes back, smacks the outside wall. And then, the 12 there of Emery Spence piles in. Heavy contact to the nose of that car. We ride on board here with Emery Spence.
It's a large, handful of these drivers that had ultimately just making their way through this race, and unfortunately, all of a sudden they get caught up finally here, like, oh, this is a tough spot to be in. You don't know if that 9 car is going to stay up top, if it's going to come down, and you don't blame to anybody. It's just the situation with the amount of speed these cars have. Just bad spot and pick the wrong lane, and it's kind of almost like a random choice, and one of them's going to be wrong.
Yeah, how do you? I mean, you can't at that speed with a car with up in front with minimal control here. As William Schmidt got turned and sent for a little bit of a ride off of the nose of John Daniels. Minimal damage to that car. It looks like he'll be able to continue on. But going back to Emery Spence, how do you can't. There's no way to predict that, where that car is going, the 9 car of Spencer Ray coming back down. You would expect, I mean, Ray got it straightened out and was up on the top side, so you can't blame Emery for going back down. And then, I mean, Ray's going to try and get it to the bottom onto the apron and limp it out of harm's way. So just a racing incident there, resulting in a lot of damage, unfortunately, for both of those cars. That was a heavy impact at a very high rate of speed. As we see cars coming down to get service, largely a lot of cars from the back half of the field once again, as the top 12 still continue to stay out on these old tires and old fuel.
And you got to start to wonder if you're making this pit stop here. That's about 34 to go right now. That's pretty close. If you get another caution sometime in this last 34 laps, you maybe have a chance to make it. So, I still see Stewart and Chin deciding to roll with this strategy and stay out here. I think they're not giving up on it, so I give them credit for that. We'll have to see if it works out. But man, it had to be hard the last couple cautions here to know that, like, you're so close to being out of gas. You'd love to come down and get that reset, but knowing that you can't make it yet, they want to try to get to that window here in another couple laps.
You saw Braden Mubbock flash by there on the outside lane. He has now got himself back on the lead lap, if I'm not mistaken. Braden, the only car within Lucky Dog range. The next car being scored behind him is Corey Rexford in the 36 laps down. So a lot of feast or famine for a lot of guys here, trying to stay on the lead lap with damage. Either you can't get it all repaired and you're going multiple laps down, or you can try and limp it home and rely on Lucky Dogs, as Braden Mubbock's done. It looks like Mubbock's still going to be 1 lap down, so I apologize for that miscall. Field's double filed back up. Sorry, Ross, go ahead. I apologize.
No, yeah, all good. We have. I just was thinking this is gonna be a little different kind of lineup with Stewart and Chin being separated. They've been first and second side by side on the restarts and almost having to work together to get together and line up nose to tail. Now they're pretty much going to start that way on the bottom. We've seen the top lane do a little bit better job on these restarts of getting going, and we saw Cade McKee early in this race do a great job pushing up on that top lane. So him second in line here with Mo Perry. Obviously Freilich third on the outside. I wonder if this outside lane can get organized and potentially take over this lead from Stewart and Chin. With them both needing to pit, potentially in a handful of laps, I suppose they're already in a good spot being down on the bottom, but if they're able to get going here, I know it just seems like it's been the best to jump up to the top once you get separated.
Yeah, that outside lane's going to be pushing hard to try and keep those two down there on the bottom in the form of Nate Stewart and Joshua Chin. We'll have to see when Nate Stewart launches. If I'm Nate Stewart, I'm going early because I can, at least we're assuming that Chin and Stewart are in a voice channel together and they can time this get a countdown and get a time going. But we'll see where it all shakes out. And look at that, there already an early call there for Nate Stewart, hard on the gas, but Josh Chin gets left behind now, and Mo Perry's got help from Cade McKee on the outside. He's not going to get him clear. Where does Cole Fralick do? Sorry, where does Cole Fralick go? There on the outside. He will stay tucked back in line. Nate Stewart's hung out there. What's he do when the pack eventually gets back to him here? Is now Josh Chin's going to be able to clear both of them. It's still going to work out for him.
Yeah, McKee and Fralick kind of got crossed up a little bit, and it ultimately they had to get, check up and getting straightened out. Now they got the run going with McKee and Perry getting the push, but those top two were able to get up in front of them and know where to go. But Mo Perry, we've seen it so far tonight, just seems to be okay with just kind of trying to stay up in this top 5 here, not being too aggressive.
Car around in the back. That's the 36 car of Dalton Geyer all around, and cars up and over. Caution flag flies once again out of turn number 4 as the 36 of Geyer finally comes to rest there at pit entry, and now will limp it back to the box. Heavy impact sent that car tumbling down off the banking and down towards pit lane, and we are under caution once again. Lap number 49.
Maybe a little bit of a stack up off of 4 there, and huge ride.
Exactly what it looks like. The 49 of Chris Pervalarkis got a huge run up right at the time that the stack up happened right in front of him, coming down once again off of a corner. That seems to be the trouble spots here tonight. And the 36 car of Dalton Geyer goes for a ride. We ride on board here with Chris Pervalarkis. Nolan Sanford involved there, and you can see Geyer's car just flipping, tumbling over and over.
This caution comes at basically we're at the window, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of people hit pit road here. If not a lot, everybody. So looking here, it looks like that's going to be the case.
Yep, good call, Ross. Nate Stewart will lead the entire field, save the lone car of Kendall Carpenter and Chris Lilly have stayed out. Everyone else has come down to get tires and fuel.
And I imagine they all feel just as we thought the last time we were in a 30-lap window, that this is their opportunity to know that they can make it the rest of the way, and ultimately just race for this. And all these drivers going to have that chance now, and I think there'll be a little bit more. Not that we've already had a little bit of aggression in this the last few stages of this race, but I think even more so now that fuel is taken care of. Maybe not for our front two here of Carpenter and Lilly. They're going to be they just pitted last Carpenter on 45 and Lilly on 46, so they probably with this caution feel like they're close enough. But something to watch for just in case they do go green and they're up here leading this pack. You might burn a little bit more fuel. They're the only two I think that we can potentially have any fuel issues of. Otherwise, it's really going to be straight up a 30-lap shootout here for the opening race of the season.
Yeah, I think that call is really interesting. I mean, Kendall Carpenter and the 48 of Chris Lilly, they get the track position. And we've seen tonight that is key. It seems like if you can get yourself slotted into a good spot in line, that you're pretty well set to stay where you're at unless a huge shuffle happens and a stack up forces somebody out of line, which is entirely possible with the big long lines that we've seen off of these cars and off of the previous cautions. So I applaud the strategy to get themselves in a position to set up well for this. You said it, Ross. What's going to be a 30-lap shootout to the end here?
Yes, and then you start to wonder, as we get to the end here, what drivers have the chance to win this? How about Dane Stinson up into the top 4 now? A driver we have not talked about at all tonight. Up 36 positions from where he started. Looking good up there in that outside lane, having a chance here on this restart. We'll see if he's got something for these front runners.
Very well positioned there up in the outside lane in second behind Kendall Carpenter, who has elected to take the outside lane. So a good run for Dane Stinson. All the way up, you said it, Ross, from the 40th spot. And Chris Lilly started in 37th. We've got quite a couple guys up here. Kyle Nadeau started in 30th. He's up to 9th. Madeline Roten up from 39th to 10th. We've got a couple names up here. Started deep in the pack. Didn't have a good dual race to get a good qualifying spot, but they have found their way. Have they figured out this new draft? And will they be able to stay up front with all these, with fresh fuel and tires snarling, bearing down on them, coming back behind them?
Ultimately the track position has worked for a lot of these drivers up near the front. They've been able to stay up there, but everybody in this pack, as long as you don't have too much damage, there's still a chance to win this. I think if everything plays out right, you never know. You still can jump up here, even if you're in the back half of this field, and steal this. So I think we're gonna see some great racing.
Race is far from over here. 29 laps to go. It'll be 28 at the line. Kendall Carpenter gets a good jump up on the outside, but he's got no help there. Dane Stinson lagged back a little bit. That inside lane is going to be coming. They're on the inside now. As it looked like Freilich was trying to make a move from third on the inside lane. As now Stinson's going to get shuffled out there on the top side. Carpenter's going to get shuffled on the inside, on the middle lane there. As the power couple of Stewart and Chin rearing their ugly heads back up towards the front now.
So here comes Freilich down to the bottom. McKee kind of got stuck in the middle there. Going to put him in a bad spot. He's going to jump to the bottom in front of Wilkerson and ultimately save his spot. But Freilich's going to have a chance to lead this lap. Maybe going to lose a little bit of momentum, but ultimately out front on that bottom lane. Nice move by Freilich to slide through there.
And I thought for sure we were going to have a huge crash there around about the 7th, maybe make it 14th spot in scoring. 7th on the bottom there. The one car of Troxel and Kiani really started. I mean, the checkup really got to the worst part of it right there. I thought we were going to have another car around in the back. But they got it all sorted out now, and here comes that bottom lane on the inside. Chris Lilly on the outside trying to hold him off there. He's got Nate Stewart right at the back bumper. A good push from Stewart, but here comes that inside with the shorter radius around the racetrack.
Just watch those bumper of Stewart and Lilly just getting a little offset there. Freilich going to jump to the outside and join him, but just trying to get lined up and give each other a push. You got to make sure that you do it right, otherwise you could have an issue. Ultimately, everybody holding on. You could tell a little bit more aggression now in the pack, especially this front pack as they try to battle for the lead.
Yep, Cade McKee now cycles to the lead. He got a good push from Jacob Wilkerson there in the 43. Doesn't jump up in front of Cole Freilich now on the outside lane. The tandem here of Lilly and Freilich going to push themselves right back up into contention there, and Freilich's going to have the lead when they head off into turn number 3. What's going to happen when they get down to the start-finish line? Who's it going to be at the line?
Looks like Lilly kind of fell back, gets the push from Stewart. McKee going to lead this one, it looks like. Great job by Cade McKee tonight, having a great opportunity of staying up near the front most of this race. Was able to push a couple different drivers up to the lead. Now leads this. We see Wilkerson, who's been very aggressive in the draft. I think a great little tandem we have down on that bottom there that are working together to try to take control of this race.
It really seems like, Ross, those cars in the second lane or the second row are having a lot harder of a time staying glued to the back bumper of the lead cars, and it doesn't look like it's temperature related because they're backing off. If they are backing off, it's a lot further than what you would think if it were an overheating issue. And I'm going to attribute that to this new draft model. These guys, the bubble that this new model creates, it is not conducive for trying to stay glued to somebody's back bumper, as now Freilich has found his way back out in front in control of both of these lanes now.
And you know that if you're not one of these, 4 or 5 drivers leading either of these lanes, you see them in the back kind of changing lanes, making moves, but ultimately not going anywhere. You know that they're getting a little nervous back there, knowing the laps are counting down and there's somewhat of a gridlock in front of them. So that's where a little bit of the action will be, especially as these laps go down. As some of these guys up front really, just kind of smooth now and just holding their ground, maybe just trying to click off some laps here.
I'm starting to notice a pattern here. If we get to green flag racing, it seems like, as Freilich's still out in front, Lilly back behind him there in the top side, it seems like we get to around about lap number 5 or 6 in the run here. We've now been under green for about 6 laps, is really when that top side starts to kick it into a high gear, and the inside lane just can't seem to keep up with them. They're doing a good job, though, this time. I'll say that. Cade McKee has been leading a great line with a really good help from Wilkerson there back behind him, but it looks like now Chris Lilly has cleared Cade McKee for that second spot. Maybe the tires just fall off in 5 laps just to the point where that top side becomes the dominant line.
It just seems like the place to be. A lot of these drivers, once they get by themselves, they kind of all float up to the top of the track, and it makes that bottom lane, it's really tough to get something going. You need and we just saw Lilly kind of just poke out a little bit there. I think that when you're on the bottom lane, you almost need one of those drivers to bail on the top lane to kill their momentum and ultimately pull you back up there. But now McKee doing a great job of getting back up there. I'll tell you that 48 of Chris Lilly is kind of all over the place. I mean, it might be fast, ultimately staying up there and doing a great job, but makes me nervous every once in a while, especially maybe that 67 of Stewart pushing him is making that car hard to drive.
I'll tell you what's got me nervous here. This lap car now of Cooper Glick down there on the bottom. You're going to see him flash by right there. Pulls down to the inside lane underneath the apron, so a good job staying out of trouble here as we've got, Chris Lilly got loose. Car gets turned to the outside wall. Caution flag is out. That's Tristan Baker up into the outside wall. Multiple cars spin around down through the grass. Jack Painter's involved. Caution flag waves on lap number 59.
You talked about it, that lap car. I knew there was going to be a chance we were going to meet some of those lappers during this last run, just because we've had a handful of incidents with damaged cars. The lapper didn't really cause this incident, but it definitely probably tightened everybody up early part of that backstretch, and then as you got later into the backstretch, I imagine they just came together. We'll have to see. Even the lappers down the apron. Oh, that's that 48 of Lilly.
Well, the 67 he got a bad bump from Nate Stewart there in the 67. Didn't get a square hit on him. Looked like he hit more towards the left side, and you saw that car immediately wiggle up to the outside lane. He tried to save it, but by that point, the brake check was on there for the rest of the pack, and it culminates back towards the back of the pack with Tristan Baker getting the worst end of it.
Yeah, everybody's so close together, and just a little bit of a stack up, and that happens, unfortunately. Just a tough spot for some of these drivers that ultimately, we're hoping that they'd get another chance to get back up there. Probably needed a caution to kind of reset, but to be involved in the caution is going to cause some headaches for a few of them.
Look at that. You see him fanned out 4 or 5 wide there. Oh, heavy contact there for Dane Stinson. We talked about the Cinderella run up from the back of the pack. Got shuffled out a little bit, and that's what you get. Got caught up right there in the hornet's nest.
Nathan Kiani was ultimately just decided, I'm getting away from this. I'm going down through the grass and was jumping all the little bumps through the grass there, but I don't think got any damage. Nice job trying to avoid that and ultimately going to be up in the top 12 here.
Pit road is open this time, and it looks like the back half of the field is going to come down and get top off on fuel, fix some damage. So 18 cars have elected to stay out and try and run this one out. And this will give them, if they were close on fuel, this will give them the necessary amount of laps, I would think, to save fuel. Speaking of saving fuel, the guys who did want to see this were Kendall Carpenter and the 48 there of Chris Lilly, who both stayed on the racetrack, but they'll be able to save a lot of fuel under this caution flag, and it'll probably get them to the end.
Yeah, more than likely, I feel pretty good that they should be able to make it now. And yeah, you know, Lilly kind of got checked up there, and that really started the checking up throughout the rest of the pack, and kind of lost a lot of ground. Back, you know, obviously was up in that top 4, now back to 6th here. And kind of we, you know, kind of just missed the fact that really Freilich was able to grab the lead. I know he was up there, and at time of caution, is going to inherit the lead with McKee in 2nd. So we'll see where these line up. Obviously, Wilkerson and Nadeau going to be 3rd and 4th. So line up, we'll see somewhat of a mix-up of the pushers on the restart. See which lane takes off here.
I was trying to look back at Chris Lilly, the 48 car, see if he had any damage. It doesn't look like there's any damage to the right side of that car. He got shoved up, or had to chase that car up into the outside lane. But from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like that 48 car sustained any damage. So he should be able to soldier on. And he had a fast car up there in that second spot in the high side. And it'll only put him back. He's going to be 3rd still on the outside when we get double filed back up here. So Lilly's still in a good spot after being involved, ultimately the cause of that first caution there. Or the last caution, sorry.
And we have a handful of more drivers trying to get caught up to the back half of this field. I think with 18 to go, we shouldn't have any issues with lappers. It's going to come down to just racing in this pack to crown our winner. I think you know, a lot of these drivers know which guys have been, you know, working together well. Maybe try to break each other up. Maybe try to find each other. It's just a matter of which group is. You know, we've seen a little bit of that tandem kind of push away. Especially even if you have a long line of cars, if you can find the right person to push you, can you get the track position up to the front with a little bit of a tandem move? If you're one of these top 5 or so drivers to grab the lead and then kind of take over this race in the final handful of laps.
Well, we know who Josh Chin and Nate Stewart's dancing partners are. That'd be each other. Cade McKee and Jacob Wilkerson were doing a great job there on the inside lane. I imagine they'll stick together. As for the rest of the drivers up there, I don't know who you go with. Are there any alliances at all? We'll have to see as the field's double filed up. The pace car will lead them down to the start-finish line and make that hard left-hand turn. Cole Freilich is the control car. Green flag's back out in the air. We're racing once again in Daytona. Freilich with a nice jump there to the outside, but he's not going to have any help. Here comes the bottom. A big push from Wilkerson to the back bumper of Cade McKee. They're going to clear Freilich easily, probably bringing Nate Stewart with him.
lots of gaps in the back. We see Lilly jumping down to the inside. That's going to make even more gaps, and I think sending Freilich and company back on that outside lane. Now they're going to all jump to the outside and put Wilkerson by himself. Can he get back in line? It doesn't look like. Maybe up to 5th here with Freilich. And now here comes, what a move by Stewart and Chin. We're 6th and 7th at the line, and they're going to jump back up here and grab the lead of this thing.
I don't know if Nate Stewart could have timed that move any later. Cade McKee had them lined up in his rear view mirror to stay to that outside, and Nate Stewart, with the run from Josh Chin there on his back bumper, dove down to the bottom and brought both of those cars around the 26 car and moved them back up into the lead and back up to that top side. Now here comes Cade McKee back on the bottom to try and mount a charge back to the front. He's got Cole Freilich to the bumper, but it's going to be hard to break up that the power couple there, for lack of a better term, of the 67 of Stewart and the 93 of Josh Chin there. Cade McKee's having some internet trouble. That might cause an issue here as we come down to complete lap number 64.
Freilich's going to send him in the middle. That's a tough spot for McKee. You know that everybody is, a driver that's been strong tonight, but you just unfortunately starts to blink, and it's a guy a lot of people are going to try to avoid.
Yeah, it doesn't really inspire confidence there, especially at a track like this where you're relying on the push, you're relying on knowing exactly where that car is in front of you, behind you, and as a result, Cade McKee gets hung out to dry. He will go to the back of this inside lane as now Mo Perry jumps down in front of Cole Freilich to try and lead. Whoa, big moment there for the 31 of Mo Perry off the bumper of Cole Freilich. Freilich's having none of it. He wants control of that inside lane, not letting anybody get a handle on that inside lane. Now he goes to the top side and leaves 4 cars down there now to fight for it, being led now by the 17 of Ruby Estes.
Yeah, a huge. You mentioned Ruby Estes. You have a handful. Thomas Troxel, probably the first time we've really talked about him tonight. Kiani, we just saw him go through the grass, avoiding that big wreck up to 5th now. Muvik, we've seen him kind of have an up and down night. Got the free pass earlier. Harry Grindell, obviously, we've seen him all night, but maybe not this far up. A handful of different drivers, and look at William Schmidt back up into 8th.
William Schmidt quietly been having a good night there, around about the 10th spot all night long, but certainly a car to keep your eye on for the entire evening and the entire season. Being last season's champion, William Schmidt knows how to wheel this car around pretty much any racetrack on the schedule now, as Cole Freilich peeks to the inside of Jacob Wilkerson, trying to island hop his way back up into contention here. The side draft doesn't seem to work for him there as they head into turn 3. He tucks back in line right in front of Mo Perry now. And unfortunately, that's going to hang out the 20 of Kendall Carpenter, who looked like he wanted to go with him.
Pretty much single file. This is a lot of these drivers up in the top 8 here, ultimately maybe just trying to get this to the end. Muvik now going to look down to the inside and get back in line. Ultimately, just not enough of a run. Kind of falling back a little bit with Grindell, hoping maybe to just try to get a run on Kiani, but just not enough to gain any track position or find that opening.
It's interesting to see now that we've reached 12 laps to go. The field single filed back out. It's exactly what Stewart and Chin wanted to see. They control this thing, not having to deal with an inside lane making a charge. But as we get down here, it's going to be 11 laps to go at the line. Those guys peeking out up underneath these guys that they get runs on, I have to imagine they're trying to practice for the finish of this race, trying to generate any run they can to advance their position. As the laps tick down here, time's starting to run out to get back up in contention for the win. As Nate Stewart continues his stranglehold on this lead group of cars.
Ultimately, the top 10 here, getting away from 11th on back. Just imagine, Stewart and Chin have done such a great job. We saw that awesome job of cutting through the field to get the lead back on that last restart, but they're going to be tough to beat. You almost kind of wonder if everybody else kind of knows how much of a stranglehold they've had on this race, at least the second half of this race. Do a lot of them then just try to avoid helping them coming down the end, getting close to 10 to go this next time by? I think the calm before the storm. We do have a lapper ahead. It looks like they'll probably stay to the bottom, but going to be clear track for at least the next handful of laps after that lapper.
Yeah, and these cars, it's interesting. I've been watching the back part of this pack here. Slowly, cars have been dropping off. Now Cole Freilich has lost this draft. He's going to get shuffled back to the second pack there of around about 4 to 5 cars. But it looks like these guys are starting to have some issues hanging on to the tail end of these draft packs.
Yeah, Freilich has fallen back, so now it makes 9 cars in this lead group. You got to be, if you're Wilkerson, you've had to have seen that and know that, like, I need to make sure I'm always as close as I can be, so that way what you're worried about is if all of a sudden you get a little bit of a stack up and then you're the last one to check up and you lose your momentum and then they start pulling away from you then. So you almost need a little bit of a gap to make sure you're just kind of be right in the middle and make that work. But up front here, I think the key will be Chris Lilly. Obviously I don't think he's going to be okay with finishing third here. I think at some point he's going to want to do something here. And I look behind with Troxel, Kiani. Movic is going to want to, try to get up near the front here. I think it'll be fascinating to see when the move is made and who goes with them.
And a group of 9 cars here as we've gotten to 9 to go in this event. Looks like it's going to come down to one of these 9, if any of them can mount a charge to get back by the 67 of Nate Stewart, who's got Josh Chin all over the back bumper, and nobody's been able to mount anything, at least at this point. So where will the run come from if it does in fact come? As that top 3 is starting to get a big, quite a distance in between the back 5 back behind them even.
And you wonder if there's any learning going on from some of these drivers, in the second half of this small group pack that's leading this thing. If you're trying to just see if you fall back, how fast are you going when you catch back up to the car in front of you, and just kind of eye that up and understand what your run maybe would look like if you did it for position later. See Kiani now a little bit farther. Troxel's going to go back to Kiani's back front bumper. Maybe just trying to see what kind of run they would get.
Always experimenting, always learning, especially with this brand new draft model that we've got here on the iRacing service with these Gen 4 cars at these super speedways. It's a completely different race from what we saw 1 week ago with the duels, Ross. This has been fascinating to watch as these drivers try to navigate and learn on the fly.
And I think Stewart, Joshua Chin have probably learned the most so far tonight as far as what works in tandem, and it's worked. I would imagine, we've seen Chris Lilly, we've seen him do a great job of pushing lines and doing a great job of working the draft in the bigger pack, but just single file here hasn't really had that opportunity. So we'll see. Man, I'm excited to see how this ends. It's just the anticipation of these last handful of laps are just feel like they're taking forever because you know what's coming here. You know what potentially could happen. And any of these 9 drivers could win this.
Ross, the setup for the end of this race so reminds me of, I believe it was the 2005 Fall Talladega race, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong here, but I know it was a Talladega race as we reached 5 to go here at Daytona. Anyway, it was a Talladega race in the mid-2000s that everybody was ripping the top side, all single file. And then right on the last lap, Jimmy Johnson and I believe it was Casey Mears. No, sorry, Brian Vickers. It was Brian Vickers jumped out to make a move at the last second on Dale Jr., who had dominated the race. And it ended up with Johnson and Earnhardt Jr. spinning down on the back straightaway as the run got generated here. As now Chris Lilly dives down to the inside. The move is being made now. The assault has been launched, and he's got help in the form of Nathan Chiani. They've drawn even with Nate Stewart. They're on the front stretch, coming to 4 to go at the line this time. Can they hang on to it? They've got help on the bottom. The bottom has 5 cars. Make it, well, I take that back now. Jacob Wilkerson jumps back to the outside, doesn't have the confidence to stay with them now, and now they'll start to drop back. The move's been made, Ross. What do you do with it now?
Yeah, it just feels like Chiani is not doing a great job now, back finally to the back bumper of Lilly. Just seemed like can't get control of that car. Movik's going to give up on it too. And now Chiani is going to basically fall back in line. So that's going to put Troxel now in 3rd, Grindel 4th, and Wilkerson in 5th. So we learned a lesson there. Now I think a lot of the drivers there worked with Chiani and Movik kind of being the first ones to pull out. It just felt like Lilly when he got down there, his back bumper didn't really just work with Chiani, and they weren't able to move forward. So we'll see if there's another match here. We're going to have some lappers here in the next handful of laps, about 3 of them that they're going to have to navigate.
3 laps to go here at Daytona for these guys to try and remount a charge back to the front. That was a practice round. They did it with about 5 to go. Gave themselves enough time if they did in fact have a hiccup like they did here, as now we navigate the lap car of the 05 of Cooper Glick now, who goes, that'll be 3 laps down for him, as now the back part of the field gets scattered once again. I don't like this, Ross. They have to stay in line all the way up to the lead.
Yeah, you just worry that this will pull each other back. You know, ultimately, maybe if it pulls them back a little bit, they get single file back. They could maybe get a run then doing that, but ultimately losing some ground here.
They will drop far back off this pack. I don't even know if they're going to have enough time to get a run back up to these guys. That does Chris Lilly and Nathan Chiani. They might have just lost the race right there. 2 to go as they flash down the back straightaway. They'll navigate the pair of lap cars here. That's the 36 and the 47 of Jamie Ritchie Price. They'll go to the inside now, and Wilkerson takes advantage of that, trying to get a little bit of a draft. He's going to draw even. Here comes Josh Chin. He's going to make a move on Nate Stewart. Coming to the line for the white flag. Josh Chin has left his dancing partner. All bets are off. 1 lap to go here at Daytona to settle it.
Imagine if you were Chin, you probably knew that those guys are going to be splitting off, and your best chance for either you or Stewart to win is to split up, and they've split up. Now Chin's going to have the push from Wilkerson. We'll see what it's just going to be so tough. Can Stewart get back with, it looks like Troxel's going to have a chance here. He's going to jump down to the bottom. It's going to be Chin going to lead this through 3.
Josh Chin, a 1-car advantage over Jacob Wilkerson. It doesn't look like they're going to have the help to get back by him here off of turn 4 for the final time. Josh Chin, a clinic here with Nate Stewart pairing tonight. But ultimately, the 93 car of Josh Chin's going to take the first checkered flag of season number 10 in the OSRL Premier Series. What a finish, Ross.
See a handful of cars even not getting to the end here, with some battles in some of those other groups trying to get finishes, but what a wild ending. I started thinking towards the end there, if the pack, the second half of the pack, couldn't do anything with Chin and Stewart, you kind of wondered at some point would they split up, and they did. I kind of was surprised by the move by Wilkerson kind of early on when they got to those lappers through with 2 to go. It kind of worked, but I just was a little nervous. I kind of thought, well, maybe wait until those lappers aren't there so you have more room to work. But it worked, kind of broke up the energy, and Chin did a great job just splitting off to make sure that either him or Stewart were going to lead the pack. And ultimately it gave Chin the lead, and he was able to hold on. I think everybody kind of just didn't have the momentum right to get a run at him at the end.
A perfectly timed move by Josh Chin. And yeah, you said it. Everybody got so splintered up. Josh Chin emerged from the chaos, and there was nobody there to help Wilkerson back up to him. And it results in a Joshua Chin victory to open the season here in Daytona. Masterclass on the high banks.
And ultimately, the ability that you talked about, the drafting package, I think a lot of them probably now looking at the last 10 laps there probably are like, man, can we redo that? Because I learned a lot there. I think they all probably learned a lot to see, and it'd be fun to talk not only to Joshua here, but maybe a few of our other top finishers just to see what else they needed to have a chance to get there. But Joshua Chin going backwards to celebrate. I like it.
I don't even know if it's the inverse Polish victory lap. I like it from Josh Chin as he spins it down there and will continue to burn it down after claiming the checkered flag here in Daytona. Let's bring in now our third place finisher in Nate Stewart. Nate, it's Brittle and the boys up in the booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, man, you dominated the back half of that race. You were a large force to be reckoned with all race long. Did you know the move from Chin was coming, and was there anything else you could have done to maybe hold him off?
I knew it was coming. I just didn't know if he was going to do it into 1 or do it into 3 on the last lap. And I mean, I totally get it. Me and Josh were working really, really well together that race. We were communicating the entire time and worked really well together. And he was just as deserving of winning this race as I was. So, I mean, I probably could have blocked harder, but the last thing I wanted to do was wreck us. And I just made sure we both all made it to the line. It's kind of unfortunate that the one car didn't get to me at the end. If he did, I feel like I may have had a shot, but the bottom 3 were just so lined up so well, and the one didn't really have anyone behind him, so we weren't able to get momentum. And yeah, third's still good. Happy with that. Thankfully, I get a bonus for best average finish across speed weeks. I think it's going to be like 1.7 or something like that. I don't know math off the top of my head, but yeah, overall, it's been a pretty fun start to the OSRL season.
It certainly sounds like it, and taking a third place with grace, I can definitely appreciate that. At what point it looked like you and Chin had this new draft package figured out? At what point in the race did you really have your thumb on it? Because it looked like you and he were the first ones to really figure out. The top seemed to be the dominant line after a couple laps under green. What did you learn, and when did you learn it, basically?
Yeah, I mean, iRacing in this past build definitely wanted to make it a little bit more realistic. That wasn't real life, and I would argue it's closer. I don't know if it's necessarily like realistic as it was back in the early 2000s, but it was definitely closer. So I kind of remember watching old Gen 4 plate races and kind of had an idea. And then it was pretty early on. I would want to say probably like one of the first times me and Chin hooked up on the top side. I know early in the race I was riding in 5th on the top lane, and it was single file out, and I kind of had an inkling that it was going to be one of those Dale Jr. train races, and ended up being right. And then once me and Josh got hooked together, I feel like me and him were like Dale and Tony. We were damn near unstoppable, regardless of who was leading and who was pushing. So
It certainly looked like it. You guys were a force to be reckoned with all race long. A great race run by the both of you. So congratulations once again. Looking ahead, next week we go all the way to the other end of the spectrum in Martinsville. How are you looking forward to that one after being on the high banks of Daytona?
Yeah, hopefully it should be a good race. We'll be rolling out a new paint scheme next week for Martinsville, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of up to Colin whether or not he wants to do some special schemes that we have. But I really enjoy Martinsville with whenever you have a good group of guys that can competently run Martinsville, I think it puts on a great race. I'm not a big short track guy, but Martinsville is one of my favorite tracks because I'm definitely a little bit more. I really enjoy road course racing. I wouldn't say I'm AJ Allmendinger level, but like I'm one of those guys that's always loved road racing and heavy braking. So Martinsville is definitely a track I always look forward to, and hopefully it goes cleaner than tonight did. I can't say I'm too confident in that, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But our number 67 Sembrap Market Jim Beaver Esports Dead Zone Racing Misadventure Life car will definitely be there and hopefully be a contender for the win.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing you next week, ripping around the paperclip. It's good to know that you're optimistic for it. Before we let you go, do you have anybody to thank for your awesome run tonight?
Yeah, like I said, Sembrap Market. They make paint bases, number sets, whatever you want in terms of painting assets for iRacing, camera packs as well. Jim Beaver Esports, they're my team in the Coke Series. Misadventure Life, that's Jim Beaver's apparel brand, lifestyle brand. Make sure you use code NS10 at checkout to get 10% off your order, and that also helps me out. Apex Action Photography, that's me. I do iRacing screenshots for a while and only keep getting better. And Dead Zone Racing, they build my setups in Coke, and they really helped me to get to where I am being in Coke and all that. Thanks again to Chen for being such a big help this race. It was really fun controlling it with them. Thanks to you guys at is it Second Split for broadcasting?
Split Second Broadcasting.
Split Second. Sorry, I don't know why I thought Second Split, but thanks to you guys at Split Second for broadcasting, and then thanks to Jack, Griffin, and all the admins that helped put this league on. You know, without them, this wouldn't be a thing. And it's good to be able to wind down from the esports stuff and come out and have some fun on Thursday nights.
Well, we appreciate you for joining us, Nate. You put on a great show tonight. Congratulations once again on your third place finish here to start the season off. Thank you so much for talking to us, and go enjoy your finish, bud. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
See if we can grab our second place finisher in Jacob Wilkerson. Jacob, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
You had an aggressive night. We love to see the aggressive driving and ultimately keeping the fenders on it, and did a great job. Coming out of the end there, we saw the lappers as you guys in that top 10 kind of broke away. We saw the lappers down the inside, and that was when you made your move. Do you feel like that was the right time? Would you have done anything different to try to get Chin in the end?
Yeah, I don't really think I could have done anything different there. I just, with 2 to go on the backstretch, I backed up to Muvik, and we got like a huge run going into 3, and that's when I made my move, even though I don't think the lappers really did anything that affected like my run at all, because Josh did come down in front of me, and I just, from there, the whole final lap, I just pushed him out to the lead. And then I was hoping I'd be able to make a move on the exit of 4, and then going into 3, we kind of just broke apart, and it was basically the race right there.
You had to use tonight's race, with this new drafting package to kind of learn. What did you learn early on in the race? It looked like maybe the top lane was kind of the place to go once we went green, but ultimately the lines stacking up on restarts, it was really who was more organized. What did you learn throughout the first half of the race that you used maybe in the second half?
This whole race, it looked like the top was pretty dominant, but you can definitely make the bottom work if you get the right people that know how to push. And like, actually build runs and stuff. Like me and Muvik did that pretty perfect on the backstretch going into 3. And yeah, that was pretty much how the whole race went. Besides all the wrecking in the beginning, and pretty much from there, that whole final restart to the end was pretty fun.
Just a handful of starts in this series. Are we going to see you throughout this season? Is it a full season? What's your outlook on races beyond Daytona?
I'm gonna try running the full season. Like I've ran this league before, like 2 years ago, and then I never really raced since. But I've come back to this league since most of the leagues that I ran have pretty much shut down. But now I've come back to this one, and hopefully I can make every single race and possibly go for a title.
Sounds good. We'll give you a chance to wrap up the chat with us to thank anyone that you like and go from there.
Yeah, I'd like to appreciate you guys for broadcasting. Shout out to Jack for putting this league together, and Team PBR, which is the team I race for, Zach Todriff, my team owner. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Jacob, and we'll look forward to maybe chatting with you down the road.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we'll bring in our winner on the evening, Josh Chin. Josh, it's Brittle and the boys up in the booth. Got a copy?
I do.
Well, man, congratulations once again on your victory here tonight. It looked like you and Nate Stewart were the pair to be beat all night long. Did you know when you were lining up that move to go for the win? At what point did you know when you had to make that move?
It was just kind of an opportunity. I was going to wait till the last lap, and that opportunity presented itself with us passing Jamie, and took it. And I thought for a little bit I wasn't be able to get away from Nate and get side drafted back, but I got enough of a run that I was able to get clear of his side draft, and he got stuck racing the row behind. And after that, it was all over from there.
At what point, and I asked Nate this too, at what point did you guys figure out and really nail down how this draft worked? Obviously, it's a new draft package to iRacing, just unveiled this week, so not everybody's had a whole lot of time to really feel it out. At what point did you guys really get it nailed down and start? You guys just started putting a whooping on everybody else. Nobody seemed to be able to touch you. At what point did you really feel like you figured it out, and what did you learn from this race?
That first 20, 30 laps, we kind of ended up getting together and just running and pushing, and kind of figured out with how much side draft there is off the right rear that you need to be up on the top line to not get pulled back. And we worked our way up there, and then when we got the lead, we just ran the wall and no one could get to us. I think if 5-6 cars had assembled on the bottom, they might have been able to get to us. But even then, if we had 3 or 4 cars behind us, third or fourth car was kind of down, pulling back the inside line, you can control them pretty easily. There was a while there in the middle of the race when we were third and fourth in line on the outside, and I was able to pull the outside line back enough that second place was clear of it, but they weren't dropping down yet because the wall was so much better.
I want to go back to that, to your last lap pass for the win there. Were you practicing that at all? Did you have any plan lined up for that, or did you just know that I got to get down to the bottom? I can't just sit here behind Nate, or you're just gonna watch him run off into the sunset? What did you have formulated? Did you know you had to get to his quarter panel? Did you know you just had to get a huge run and back it up? What were you planning in that moment?
It was just a complete spur of the moment. I had a feeling I was going to have to drop low and he wasn't going to give up the outside. So it was kind of, is there an opportunity where someone's coming inside? And Wilkerson kind of had that run up the middle with getting a run off Jamie and that other lap car. So that gave me the push to be able to get there. I think if that hadn't happened, I would have been waiting all the way probably till turn 2 to make that move.
yeah, certainly an opportune set of circumstances there, and ultimately gave you the victory. So that's what matters. So congratulations once again on your victory here. Looking forward, we've got Martinsville next week, a complete 180 from the high banks of Daytona. How are you feeling about that one?
I feel pretty good if I don't get wrecked. I like Martinsville a lot. I like short tracks, so hopefully it'll be a better start to the season I had last year and actually be in contention for the championship instead of being out of it after the first 3-4 races.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there and racing hard for another victory, trying to go back-to-back to open the season is Josh Chen. Before we let you go, bud, do you have anybody to thank for your awesome run tonight?
Big shout out to everyone at Team Hype, Team Power Slide, and thank you to OSRL and you guys for putting on the race and the broadcast. And season 10 on the way.
And off to a ripping start is season number 10. Josh, thank you so much for talking to us. Congratulations once again on your victory. Hope you have a good night and go enjoy it, bud.
Yep, thank you guys.
And now that we've got our interviews out of the way, let's go through our race results here. We just talked with Josh Chen. He is your winner on the evening. Jacob Wilkerson comes home in second with Nate Stewart rounding out the podium, finishing third. William Schmidt, last season's champion, coming home in fourth, starting off that campaign in great fashion, trying to pick up right where he left off. Braden Movick comes home to round out the top 5. Harry Grindell, a great run for him, lands 6th. Thomas Troxel in 7th. Chris Lilly, 8th. We talked about him all night. Certainly a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out for him, but a 8th place finish all the same after coming up all the way from 37th. So a great run for that driver of that 48 car. Nathan Kiani finishes 9th, and Cole Freilich rounds out your top 10 after starting second.
You see Cole Freilich 7 seconds back, leading the second pack that ultimately just kind of lost ground. Ruby Estes in 11th, Dane Stinson 12th, Tristan Baker 13th, Isaac Johnson 14th, Kendall Carpenter 15th. Yeah, a lot of these drivers here just kind of lost the draft on that last little run and ultimately weren't able to get back up there. Was probably hoping for a caution. 16th to 53 of Griffin Jones. Cade McKee, we saw Cade multiple times tonight up near the front, just not able to stay there on that last run, which is too bad. John Felber back in 18th, Kyle Nadeau in 19th, and Chris Pervolarkis rounding out the top 20.
Coming home 21st is Jack Painter. 22nd is Brett Bennett. 23rd, John Daniels. 24th, Nicholas Podimlik. 25th, Nolan Sanford. 26th, Michael Deitch. 27th, Spencer Ray. 28th, Mo Perry. Mo was up there mixing it up there for a little bit for the lead. Unfortunately, dropped back and comes home in that 28th spot. Caden Reif had one of the nights of all time for the driver of that 98 car. Brings it home in the 29th spot. And Jamie Ritchie Price, first car 1 lap down in 30th.
And a handful of these drivers near the back just getting caught up in incidents. We saw a handful of lappers. Dalton Geyer was a lap down. Shane Sweeney, Emery Spence, and Cooper Glick a handful of laps down. Madeline Roten, Trey Patton. We saw Trey have a huge save early, getting through one of the incidents, but then must have got caught up in one of the late ones there and finished 33 down. Corey Rexford, Stephen Gibson, Ethan Quarter, and Joe Armstrong in 40th.
And certainly last but not to be forgotten about, Marty Farrell comes home in the 41st spot, 83 laps down. Ross, closing thoughts from a wild Daytona. It was a great race to watch from a broadcaster standpoint, just to watch these guys figure out this new package. It's so interesting to watch the learning process. You could really see it in guys like Josh Chen, obviously Nate Stewart. They figured it out and dominated the evening. Jacob Wilkerson, I mean, he just a whale of a drive to be up there and keep inside that top 10 pretty much for the entire evening. For him, a great run from him. What did you take away from the opening race of season 10?
Yeah, I think ultimately, we saw a handful of drivers kind of take control of the race at certain times, and that's something that I think we've seen a lot in this kind of super speedway racing. Even though this was somewhat of a change up with the package, and they had to kind of learn on the fly, we still saw different drivers kind of up there and battling for it. But then we also had the other side of it, some surprises up there at certain times, drivers that we hadn't talked about at all that were able to sneak up there. It's interesting what this does if, for a season, with 18 races, that, what does that do for or I guess 15 races. What's that do for this first race? You get through it. Can some of these drivers that finish in the top 10 tonight stay up in the top 10 in points? And if you're in a bigger hole, can you come out of it and catch back up? Excited to see what drivers over the next handful of weeks and as this season goes take control of this race and battle for a championship.
Well, that'll just about wrap it up here for us at Split Second Broadcasting, covering the first race of Season 10. Looking forward to a great season in the OSRL Premier Series. We will be back next Tuesday here live to showcase the Great Lakes Truck Series, race number 17 at Rockingham. You can catch us live here on Tuesday night at twitch.tv/splitsecondbroadcasting. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I've been Hunter Brittle alongside Ross Brockman in the booth, Jeff Johnson behind the sticks, controlling the scenes. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.